All right. Now that I've had a couple of days to kind of digest this monumental, extremely heartbreaking news, I thought I would make a video on just how much Akira Toriyama meant to me. But I don't want it to be a sad video. I know I've already started and I sound very down and very sad. But this man brought me so much happiness. I just want to bring positive memories and nice moments and just reminisce and thank him. Wherever he is right now, I hope he hears all of our messages. I've watched a lot of videos, a lot of people that I respect, Dragon Ball YouTubers, Lotus Asakura, Nanogenics, Rhyme Style, Omega Pro. If you know that kind of general squad, I've watched a lot of their videos talking about how much Toriyama meant to them. And by now, I'm sure you've watched so many people do kind of tribute videos. But I don't care. This is just for me, honestly. I don't care if it gets 2 views, 1 view, and that view is just me. I honestly don't care. Because I need to make this, I need to say, and just let out how much this man meant to me. And of course, I'm not going to monetize this. That just wouldn't be right. But if you want to listen and if you find some solace in this, then that's just an added bonus. You know, it still doesn't feel real. It feels like, because he wasn't such a public person, it doesn't feel like it actually happened, that he actually passed. I feel like he's still here. It probably won't feel real for another multiple months when we finally start to see Dragon Ball change and progress without his input. Because you've always heard behind the scenes he was working on this, working on that. He always had his hands in Dragon Ball, always had his influence. But now that's just gone. It's just going to be gone. And this isn't the kind of thing where I'll just talk about it and I'll feel better after I'm done talking about it. It's going to hit for months. But again, I just want to reminisce on all the positive memories this man has brought to my life through his work. He has to be one of the most influential artists or people in the world. Dragon Ball itself as a franchise, definitely one of the most influential pieces of entertainment or media ever. I don't want to get into a whole debate about what is the most influential. That's not what this video is about. It's up there with Star Wars in the level of pop culture influence it's had. Things that you don't even realize are influenced by Dragon Ball. You know, you hear it in rap songs all the time. People are influenced by it. Plenty of bodybuilders talk about how they wouldn't be bodybuilders if it wasn't for Dragon Ball and just the influence it had on them wanting to work out and get stronger and better themselves. And then, of course, for people like myself and other YouTubers like the ones I mentioned earlier, wouldn't be YouTubers, wouldn't be on here if it wasn't for Toriyama. I just wouldn't be who I am today without Toriyama and his work. Outside of people that I know personally, he's definitely the most influential person in my life. Parents first, some close family and friends, the occasional teacher, but then Toriyama is also up there. So now let me just reminisce and go back on the good times and the good moments and just the positive feelings that Dragon Ball has brought me these last 23 years of life. My earliest memories of life itself, honestly, is Dragon Ball. I remember vividly seeing my brother and cousin, I believe it was, playing Dragon Ball Budokai 1 on the PS1 when I was like a toddler. This is like my earliest memory of life, honestly. I just remember looking at the screen and just being enamored. They were playing on the World Tournament stage, and I just found it so interesting. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I think they might have handed me the controller at one point, and I was just, dicking around. It probably happened, but the point is that Dragon Ball has literally been with me since I could think, since I can remember anything. I don't have a memory of what it's like to see Goku transform for the first time or see Trunks appear for the first time because it's just always been known to me. It's been like a part of me. It's been a part of my identity in a way. And for those of you who don't know, my channel name N2A stands for Noob to Anime. Don't ask me why I made that name, but the point is I was new to anime when I created my channel. I started watching around COVID time. I started watching Naruto, but Dragon Ball was always there. I just never considered Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball was its own thing. It didn't make me an anime lover in my mind. I just loved that one thing because it's always been with me. Growing up, I wasn't the most secure kid. I was a little overweight. I was very insecure about how I looked. I wasn't very confident in myself. But Dragon Ball is where I could go to find some sort of confidence. And it's where I could take comfort in. And now, who I am today, a more confident, more fit, healthy person and happy person. A lot of that is attributed to Dragon Ball. I mean, it taught me the meaning of working hard. That, along with my parents and seeing how hard they work to provide for us and to take care of us. But Dragon Ball just reinforced that. And there's something about Goku, and while Vegeta is my favorite character, the older I get, the more I appreciate Goku and the way he's written. It's so simple, but it works so well. Whenever people critique movies and talk about TV shows that didn't work, a lot of the times it's because a character didn't go through a good arc, or there was no character arc, and everybody's always complaining about how there needs to be a character arc in order for us to really feel for the characters or to really relate to them. But Goku has no character arc. He's always the same character. The way he starts is the same way he is right now. From 1984 to 2024, he's the same. But we love him nonetheless. Because we find some comfort, or at least I find some comfort knowing that this gentle, kind man or boy is still able to be such a badass, and it's believable. It's written and balanced so perfectly. Honestly, Toriyama did a wonderful job balancing that badassery with that kind-hearted innocence. It's really something to behold, honestly. That's why the older I get, the more I appreciate Goku as a character. Because a lot of times you find characters who are very badass and then they become nice and you don't really buy it, or vice versa. Whereas with Goku, you know when he's serious, like he's fucking serious and you take that shit seriously. But then when he's innocent and nice and kind, you know, you believe that too. It just works. And the way he just wanted to fight, not to hurt other people, but just to better himself because he loved it. All he wanted to do was better himself and improve and test his might against the strongest. And that underlying simple message, such a simple message, nothing about Dragon Ball is too deep, in my eyes at least. No message is that deep or intricate or complicated. But sometimes the simple messages just get across so well. They come across so well. Hard work, perseverance, determination, never giving up, such basic, simple things that so many anime since then have also as their main themes. But Dragon Ball was kind of the king of it. And it's the definition of badass. If you look up badass in a dictionary, I'm sure there's a picture of Super Saiyan 2 Teen Gohan, of Super Saiyan 1 Goku, Super Saiyan 1 Vegeta. It just epitomizes, if that's the right word, it captures the word badass perfectly. And Dragon Ball is always just a comfort show, not just show, but video game. The video games were a huge part of my life. Dragon Ball as a medium, as an entertainment franchise in general, is by far the most time I've spent with any kind of franchise. And I love other franchises like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, but Dragon Ball by far, from the games to the shows to the movies, I've spent by far the most time with this franchise and with these characters that Toriyama-Sensei created. Man, the video games just mean so much to me. And I know Toriyama didn't directly create the video game, so he's not responsible for the mechanics or anything, but they wouldn't exist without him, right? And just when you think about how influential, when I opened the first chapter of Dragon Ball yesterday, just to go back and kind of read it, how that turned into the influence that it has today to the shows, the games, to pop culture influences. A friend just sent me a post earlier with a bunch of soccer stadiums all around the world putting up Goku kind of tributes in the stands. Like, that unbelievable level of influence from a man just drawing with his pen on a piece of paper is unbelievable. And it's honestly heroic and it's inspiring. It makes me think me just sitting here talking into a goddamn microphone in my freaking room with Dragon Ball posters around me. I'm looking at him right now. Majin Vegeta, there's a Kid Buu sticking up the middle finger behind me. Me in this tiny little room speaking into a microphone can actually do something maybe and help some people out and have some sort of influence. Maybe not the level of influence Toriyama-Sensei had. That's just a different level, a different galaxy. But that even me, even I can do something. That's just the kind of inspiration he gives. Just a man drawing on a piece of paper, using his imagination. And it captured all of our imaginations like nothing else. But let me go back down memory lane a little bit, talk about some personal experiences I have with Dragon Ball. A lot of them have to do with the games. I spent countless hours on the PS2, mainly the PS2, because those were where the best Dragon Ball games were, in my opinion, that era. And we couldn't afford too many video games. So around the PS3 era, there were other games my brother kind of wanted. So we didn't get too many of the newer Burst Limit or Raging Blast. I didn't really play those ones. Ultimate Tenkaichi, I'm glad I avoided that one. But the PS2 era and the Budokais, the Budokai games and the Budokai Tenkaichi games just had such a big influence on my life. And the story of Dragon Ball, experiencing it through those games, it was just tremendous. I remember getting Dragon Ball Z, Budokai 2, and for some reason it was such a hated game. My brother ended up trading it in for Dragon Ball Sagas, actually, I think it was, which is a much more hated game. I love both of those games personally. Sagas definitely has its issues. Budokai 2, I'm not sure why it got so much hate. I think it was just a better version of Budokai. The story maybe wasn't as great cutscene-wise, but I really think it was a good game. Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 was the epitome of that trilogy. They did a fantastic job, and I played that story mode countless times. I can't tell you how many times I played it. I remember you could level up your character in that game, and I just remember the main characters, Goku and Vegeta, those main story modes that I played were damn near maxed out in like health and ki, because I played the story mode so many goddamn times. And the higher you got in levels, obviously the harder it is to level up. But those motherfuckers were almost maxed out at those levels. That's how many times I played that story mode, and my brother as well. But I just had an absolute blast, and I just could not get enough. It was just something about, it made me feel, with how insecure I was when I was younger, it just made me feel more confident in myself. Made me feel like I could do anything. And it took me years for me to actually make something of myself, in my opinion. I was very lazy growing up, many of my childhood years, but Dragon Ball, whenever I would watch that, it would make me want to do something. It would make me want to be better. It would make me believe that I could achieve whatever the fuck I wanted to achieve. And it wasn't until the last couple years where I really found out that YouTube is what I want to achieve, like for real. It's what I actually do enjoy doing, that the message of Dragon Ball really hit for me. But then moving on from the Budokai games, when we went to Budokai Tenkaichi and then Tenkaichi 2, I vividly remember coming back from a Christmas party we had and coming back home, and in our stocking there was a copy of Budokai Tenkaichi 2, and I was so ecstatic when I saw that Trunks cover with the sword. I thought it was so badass. And the next day, immediately when I woke up, popped that game in, played the shit out of it. And it's kind of a blur in my life until we got Budokai Tenkaichi 3. I don't even remember when we got Tenkaichi 3. But that game, to this day, is maybe one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game of all time. And definitely has to be one of the most played games by me ever. I would just recreate the fights. That's why I love that game more than the Xenoverse games. Just never did it for me, because you couldn't recreate the fights the way you could in Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Budokai Tenkaichi 3, you could do the attacks, the beam struggles, the clashes. It really felt like Dragon Ball fights, like for real, like from the show. Xenoverse just never felt that way for me. I never got that feeling. But anyways, this isn't a video trying to shit on the Xenoverse games. Those games are fine. I'm just talking about, for me, how influential Budokai Tenkaichi 3 was in my life, because after that game, we didn't get too many Dragon Ball games until Xenoverse, years later. And I remember there was a point when I was growing up, and I thought, none of my friends really liked Dragon Ball, honestly. And I thought at one point, I'm getting a little too old for this. Maybe I was watching Dragon Ball one time when I was 10 or 11, and I thought this might be the last time I watched the show, because I'm getting a little too old for it, Dragon Ball. It's got to maybe stick in the past. You know, that's kind of for kids. And I thought I would kind of phase out of it. And I was a little embarrassed because, again, none of my friends really liked it, and they all thought it was kind of like childish. It was anime. Oh, what is this, you know? So I didn't really have any friends in school that really liked Dragon Ball. Like, I loved it. I had to kind of hide my love of it. But I just could not get away from it in my mind. It was just too cool. It had too big of an influence on me. It was too rooted in my heart and in my mind. Toriyama's work was just such an inspiration to me that I could never leave it behind. I could never phase out of it, even when I wanted to. Looking back, I feel a little guilty on the fact that I wanted to at all. But again, I was a kid, and when you think other kids might make fun of you for liking something, you're more likely to maybe step away from that certain thing. But I just couldn't with Dragon Ball. I kept coming back to it. I kept wanting to watch it. I would watch the clips on YouTube. I don't know how many times I've watched Dragon Ball Z, Cell versus Gohan, Cell versus Goku, Goku turning Super Saiyan, Goku turning Super Saiyan 3, just the most popular and badass clips. I have no idea how many times, countless hours I've watched those clips. They're fucking amazing. And again, I already said this, but there's nothing complex about Dragon Ball. That's not why I love it, because there's a deep, intricate, crazy message. It's so simple, but it just works so well. Work hard to achieve your dreams. Never give up. Keep persevering. And you'll get there one day. And I just can't believe the man who created all that is gone. You know, the last couple of days while I've been watching kind of the tributes and everything to him, I felt the urge to cry multiple times. And for some reason, I couldn't. It's not that I'm afraid of crying or that I'm not a crier. The last time I cried was when Kobe died. But maybe it was because Kobe, he wasn't a bigger influence on my life, but because he was more public and he had more interviews, you could kind of dig into it more and you could feel a connection more to him directly. Whereas with Toriyama, obviously, I've watched maybe an interview or two he's done ever. Like, I haven't seen much out there. There's almost nothing. He's a very private man, and I respect that. But it makes it harder for me to connect to him directly. I connect to him through his work, which meant so much to me. And Dragon Ball is still around. It still will be around. I can always go back and watch the show. It's going to be more emotional now when I watch it or when I read it or when I play the games. But they're still there. Whereas with Kobe, he was kind of just gone as a human. And he had so much left to do, as did Toriyama. But yeah, I felt a little guilty that I couldn't cry over Toriyama dying. Like, I tried. And I felt the tears come multiple times, but it just wouldn't. The floodgates wouldn't open. And I'm sure they probably will at a random point. At some point, I'll just probably break down, because this man really did have the biggest influence on my life, again, outside of immediate family and friends. I mean, how many times have we all tried to pretend to go Super Saiyan or do a Kamehameha? I'm not afraid to fucking say, I still do Kamehamehas from time to time. Not full on screaming out loud. Nah, even that I'll do occasionally. I'm not gonna lie to you. Final flashes, big bang attacks. I do all that shit, man. Not afraid to say. And I said before that Toriyama's a very private man, and honestly, that's something I respect about him a lot. Especially now that he's gone, just because I, myself, as you know, clearly you can see, I don't do face cam on my channel. Because I want to have the option, on the chance that I really blow up to some kind of level that's crazy, I want to have the option of whether or not to keep my privacy or not. I want to be able to choose for myself whether or not people know who I am, or people know my name, people know, where to find me, God forbid. I want to have that choice. And the fact that Toriyama was so godlike of a figure, and he kept his privacy for the most part, I really admire that. He could have at any point leaned into the fame, gotten lost in it, but he didn't. And I respect him for that. And I know I'm talking about how influential Toriyama and Dragon Ball has been on my life, and yet I'm an anime channel who hasn't made a single video about Dragon Ball. Honestly, it's partly because I'm a little scared of Toei and their copyright strikes. They get a little fucking stingy over there. But also, I just wanted to save it for when the time was right to do the recaps. And I was probably going to do it before Dragon Ball Daima came out this year. And I still might do it around that time. But man, it's going to be hard to watch Dragon Ball again, knowing Toriyama is gone. The last 2 days, I've just been listening to Dragon Ball game music, Dragon Ball show music. And again, it doesn't feel like he's gone. It just doesn't, I still can't really believe it. Maybe that's why I can't break down, because I don't actually believe it. It doesn't feel like it's happened. It came out of nowhere. And the way he passed, too, was just such a tragic way to pass. Not that any form of passing away is good, but it's so sad to know he had to go out the way he went out. Likely in pain, but I'm at a bit of a loss here, guys. I don't know what else to say. I said at the beginning I'm going to try and make this a more positive video. It might not have turned out exactly that way. I apologize. But again, this video was never meant to be for views or for monetization or for anything of that sort. It's really just for me, and it's an added bonus if anybody out there can relate and this video helps them in some way cope with the news and the reality that I still can't really buy that Toriyama passed. I've been thinking of a way to do a video. I just don't know, a tribute type of video. There's so many people out there way more talented than me that can do AMVs and edits of the show, I'm sure, but I think I have a kind of a creative mind. I can probably think of something to do kind of as a tribute to just the influence this man has had on me. I think for now, I can't anymore. I don't know what else to say. If you guys want to share your favorite Toriyama memory down below, your favorite memory of a game or of a show or a moment of the show or reading the manga, if you're old enough to have read it when it was first coming out in Japan, that'd be something you can share down below. We can discuss just how amazing the impact he's had on all of our lives has been, how positive of an impact it's been, and how thankful and grateful I am to you, Mr. Toriyama, because I would not be who I am today in any way if it wasn't for you and your work. You've made me a better person, and I'm going to keep trying to be a better person, in part thanks to your work and thanks to the message your work has brought. I'm going to try to be the best I can be. That's my promise to myself and to you, Toriyama-Sensei. With that being said, take it easy, everybody. I wish you all well, and may you rest in peace, Toriyama-Sensei. Peace.